China builds islands in the South China Sea. Module 2. Major actors include China, Malaysia, Vietnam, the Philippines, Taiwan, and the United States of America. We will be specifically evaluating China's actions. Background. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies' Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative's China Island Tracker, China has 20 outposts in the Paracel Islands and 7 in the Spratlys. It also controls Scarborough Shoal, which it seized in 2012 via a constant Coast Guard presence, though it has not built any facilities on the feature yet. Since 2013, China has engaged in unprecedented dredging and artificial island building in the Spratlys. They have created 3,200 acres of new land, along with a substantial expansion of its presence into the Paracels. The South China Sea is a strategic waterway because of its potential for military use, in addition to its major shipping lanes. Economics. Last week, on May 20th, 2019, the Center for Strategic and International Studies' Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative published a report. In this report, it was shown that despite a decline in China's activity in the South China Sea from 2016 to 2018, the past 6 months have shown that China is still heavily engaged in the area. Over these months, Chinese clam harvesting ships have returned to the sea in force. Satellite imagery from 2018 shows that these fleets are in the Paracels, at the Scarborough Shoal, and even in Bombay Reef. The fleets are going to these places for the purpose of giant clamshell extraction. Clamshells are a hot commodity in the statuary and jewelry market, as they bring in thousands of dollars. Concerns have been raised about the endangered status of the clams in addition to the deteriorating coral reefs. Writer Victor Robert Lee has documented these effects on Chinese clam harvesting on the coral reefs. More than 28 reefs have been destroyed as a result of China's activities. This has been evidenced in news reports, videos, commercial websites, and even aerial photographs. The giant clam is seen as the white gold of the sea. It is more than 1 meter in length, weighs over 200 kilograms, and lives for more than 100 years. It is also hard to counterfeit, so it is seen as a luxury and high-return investment. Trading giant clamshells is prohibited under international and Chinese law. However, a high-end shell can sell for more than 1 million yuan, the equivalent of $150,000. The Chinese Coast Guard and People's Liberation Army Navy seem to turn a blind eye to its poaching by Chinese fishermen. They often justify these actions under sovereignty. One can see on the Chinese website Alibaba that dozens of pages of products are made from these giant clamshells. Oil, gas, and the military. There are many regional fears about China's intentions. Facilities in the South China Sea's reefs and islands are more military-based rather than civilian-focused. One can see this through the presence of the People's Liberation Army. Therefore, the United States has urged China to stop its militarization of the sea. China's defense is often that they have the right to build necessary defense facilities on their own sovereign territory. National security. Reuters asked China's defense military to comment on the matter, and they did not respond. However, when a spokesman for the Foreign Ministry, Zhang Shuang, responded, he claimed that China's sovereignty over the Paracel Islands was not being disputed, so it is China just carrying out its work in its sovereign territory, which is completely justified. Here is a political cartoon printed by the Japanese Times that exaggerates China's claims in the international waters by showing that even turtles and manatees are staked out by China. I found this cartoon to be quite amusing because on pages 22 and 23 of Goldstein and Qian's publication, they make the claim that Japan has a rather Hobbesian view of the international system. Are these perspectives limited to Japan, or does this Hobbesian worldview pertain to China as well? Early on in Leviathan, Hobbes ascertains that obedient, simple people can be taken advantage of by the crafty, ambitious man using power. China's creation of islands, reefs, and banks seem to be crafty at the expense of less ambitious and capable neighboring countries. Motive versus intent. In 2015, the Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs filed protests over the harvesting of giant clamshells under the eyes of the Chinese Coast Guard vessels. This shows that China is acting more under motive rather than intent. They're acting subjectively based on their own mindset of national sovereignty rather than a collective state of mind that would consider the thoughts and feelings of Philippines. Let's look at some more facts. China's military, government, and Tiananmen fishermen are all complicit in illegal clam harvesting and coral reef destruction. China often breaks up coral because that allows them to more easily extract clamshells, even though this devastates the natural environment. 25,000 acres of reef were damaged due to clam extraction in 2016 alone by China. And the Philippines brought a case against China to the Arbitral Tribunal in 2016 over violations in their international law, specifically concerning the marine environment. Based on all of this information, China is definitely acting under motive. They are driven by the beliefs of their own national sovereignty and their expectations that they have the rights to the sea. They act based on their preferences and their own personal assessment of the situation. They look to the external environment and their preferences in order to contemplate the actions that they're going to take. They often do not have a justification for this publicly. They just state that they are acting within their own rights under national sovereignty. Giant clamshell products. Let's look a little bit further into this case study. China has a website called Alibaba that signs a lot of clamshell products. If you look at the bottom left, you can see the elegant giant clamshell garden ornament. It sells between 50 cents and $5 each, but a 500-piece minimum order is necessary. This means that these products are being wholesaled for a lot of money. In the middle, you can see a natural stone 6mm white-yellow giant clam fashion jewelry and gemstones. These are sold between $2.50 and $2.60 each, but a 30-strand minimum is required. And on the top right, you can see the giant clam horn charm pendant, selling between $1 and $5, but a 20-piece minimum order is necessary. This all goes to show the economics evaluated and associated with the South China Sea. So, is China working under an interest-based approach or an ideas-based approach? China is acting based on rational calculation, based on its own personal desires, for the economic and national security and military benefits of the sea. They saw an opportunity, and they've taken that opportunity considering the constraints that would be placed against them. Therefore, China is taking an interest-based approach. China is not taking an ideas-based approach because they don't value commitments. Time and time again, you can see how they're breaking international laws and treaties with their neighbors. It is not a shared strategy, and they are not considering the meaningful social context of the actions they're taking, but they're rather pursuing their own national interests. Is China pursuing an interest or ideas-based approach as it expands into the South China Sea? The answer is an interest-based approach. Thank you.